78644 is brought to you by Texas Hatters, Wella Foods, Thunderbird Bars, Wendy R. Bookery and Gifts, Corazon Austin Realty, and Viva Trilingua, the Big Bang of Texas Music exhibit at the Whitliff Collections at Texas State University. Transcendentalism is a 19th century American philosophical and literary movement. It celebrated individualism, intuition, and a profound connection with nature. Famous transcendentalists like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau believed in the innate goodness of people, advocating for self-reliance and encouraging individuals to trust their inner wisdom. They found inspiration in the beauty of the natural world, viewing it as a gateway to higher truths. The movement also challenged societal norms and called for the social reform, critiquing established institutions. It's a uniquely American way of thinking in that it's seeking transcendent good while also using criticism to accomplish it. Can we do better than the status quo and strive that in every area? In this episode, we will speak with several artists and musicians about their work and the concept of becoming. I'm Stephen Collins, and this is 78644. Richard Platt was one of several people in a group of friends who bought land together near Lockhart about 10 years ago. Several of that group of friends then opened businesses that went on to become beloved staples in Lockhart: Lupin Lil's Pizza, Lockhart Arts and Crafts, and Load Off Fannies. Richard grew up and had played music with Chris Hoyt, the co-owner of Lupin Lil's, and Shane Renfro of R.F. Shannon since he was a kid. He's been working with another artist that has made his mark here in Lockhart, Chaz Emile Bissett, on his debut album. Chaz came to Lockhart to open Sunflower & Friends, a music school and music shop. Chaz has recently been working on a new solo album of his own. So both Richard and Chaz are releasing their records close together. And they came in to the studio to discuss the album and what it's been like living and working in Lockhart. From what I can understand, it's several records coming out?
Well, yeah, so under Sunflower and Friends, a music shop, we had this idea kind of at the cusp of the pandemic of like, it'd be cool to do like a tape label thing. And, you know, Richard was a big inspiration for that. Like, well, you know, we'll record it and then we'll try to put it out and get it so people can hear it. So as far as things just over the last few years that I've recorded, a good friend of mine, Mary Palmer, who goes under Alternate Universe U, we got to record a pretty cool single that we both produced and played a bunch of instruments on. So that'll be seeing the light of day proper. And it's basically just an unveiling of all these things. Then it was going to be an EP, but it turned into a full length, and that's my personal music. That's an album called Canary in the Gold Mine. And then Richard Allen Platt. It was going to be kind of one big thing of just the Sunflower and Friends Records and Tapes label release.
Yeah.
But it was like, well, shoot, like, you know, Richard got asked to play the R.F. Shannon release show, which is another record I played some instruments on. And I was like, everyone can't play this. Like, it's going to be a 14-band bill or something by the time we...
Right.
So, So I've got mine just a couple days before. And then, yeah. But it's kind of just a November soup of Lockhart music release.
Oh, that's cool. That's fascinating. So it's like all R.F. Shannon, Richard, your debut record, and then Chaz, it's a new solo record for you as well.
Yeah.
And Chaz, how long were you working on some of that stuff?
Well, I would say all this particular material, it's probably just been, maybe kind of like, I don't know, what's mid-code? I don't know. Like a year or so into it, really started working on some of the ideas that made it to this album. There's a lot of stuff going on, so it's a lot of new world experiences. So it's a different sounding record. You know, the last one had way too many overdubs, and I didn't have the bandwidth to try to recreate that live or record it also. It's a little more Spartan in its arrangements.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to hearing that too. Everyone's working together for the release show, which is in mid-November, and we'll promote that, let people know where that is. Cool. I'm starting to get my thoughts together. I know, Chaz, that you're working with R.F. Shannon on bass. And then, Richard, are you working independently, or Chaz and you are working live? Is that kind of how it's going?
Shane from RF Shannon's playing bass for Richard's live band. I'm playing guitar and keys.
Okay, so it's kind of a switch out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's me and Jackie O.
I need to interject at this point that he's not talking about Jackie Onassis. But for a minute, I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool.
And then Chaz, John.
Yeah, John Grana.
And Shane.
On drums. Yeah.
Info. So, and then, we're just starting to, get this album turned into a live version that we're going that we can reproduce,
Yeah.
We're a little bit nervous about trying to do that, just since it's an unorthodox way the record was made, and,
It is a weird process to, write all these songs, and then we recreate all these songs a little bit at a time for this album, right?
Yeah.
Because it went from just me and a guitar to that would sound good with drums. Okay, let's put bass on it. Now we also need a fiddle and some slide or whatever, But now we need to get to a point where we can recreate the overall gist of this album live without having 15 people playing different instruments.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because we packed a lot of stuff onto this album ultimately, right?
Recording was kind of like Navin Johnson from the Jerks. Like, I need that. I need this.
Yeah.
I need I need this slide guitar.
And this mouth harp.
Yeah. But when we got together to rehearse, we had never played any of that stuff together. And Shane sounded fit right in on bass, and John sounded great on drums. And I was like, I want to see this band. I was excited at how it went.
Everybody who's playing, it definitely has the same vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
that's awesome. Me
and Shane grew up together, and we've been playing music for a long time. He knows my sensibilities and how I sing and stuff. And then we've been recording this album for a year and a half. Once a week as a project. So Chaz definitely knows everything about all these songs. So
yeah,
it kind of took off pretty quick. It's been pretty good.
And having not really done that before, did you find, we talked about it a little bit, but did it change your writing or the way you think about writing at all?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely making me a better musician, because I used to, if you're not playing with a band, then who cares about when timing or really anything, It's just sing loud and have a cool little, tell a story, And I just wanted to be like a storytelling songwriter, who would sing loud enough to, get people's attention in a bar full of people, right? But now, I'm starting to write songs again, working on new stuff. And then my whole sensibility of songwriting is changing because now I get to see what it's like to have fun and just get people dancing,
Yeah.
It's a whole other concept of songwriting that's awesome.
That is cool. It's just interesting to hear your perspective on having it one way and then seeing the discovery of what the studio does and then being around. Because you were in a band before. You talked a little bit with Chris and Chris Hoyt.
We used to play in Comanche Club.
And can you talk a little bit about what that was?
Yeah, it was like me and Chris Hoyt, Lane, his wife, a friend Devin would play drums, Shane Renfro's on bass, and my wife and I did backup vocals, right? And I would play harmonica every once in a while. And then it was super fun, kind of like stomping country, think of like early 2000s whenever that stuff was just kicking off.
Mm-hmm. Stomping around.
What's that?
That music was just stomping around.
Just stomping around, man. But yeah, we were super young, know. And we had just had our first child, Samuel, and then, it was really just to have fun. And, me and Chris and Shane have always been writing songs since we were growing up. And those two guys are prolific songwriters, so I kind of just wanted to be on that bandwagon. And I was like, I'm not going to be the only one sitting around not writing songs. I'm not going to be a loser over here. But so yeah, playing the Comanche Club was fun, and then we ultimately wanted to leave Austin, and then everybody started having kids and growing up, and there was never really any, you can't pay for a house with Lone Star drink tickets,
No, you can't.
Right. So,
Oh man.
Or any other drink tickets.
right. So Chris just got some old Comanche Club stuff that he is trying to put out, but it was super fun, and it kind of got me, comfortable playing with a band, but I've never been like the front person in a band,
Yeah.
I didn't play guitar in Comanche Club. We just sang and looked pretty,
It's an interesting story, and would you mind to tell it a little bit? I don't think that I wasn't aware that I knew that you and Chris had grown up together. I didn't know that you and Shane had grown up together and doing music and stuff. But there was a whole movement of you guys that came to Lockhart, and you bought land. You want to talk a little bit about that story? It's a fascinating story.
Oh, me and Chris Hoyt and Shane Renfro all grew up together in Grapeland, Texas, right? East Texas, Pine Curtain area. But yeah, we all wound up in Austin, lived in Austin for quite a long time. Then when we were pretty young, and then we just were so poor. We felt like we would never own a house or anything. So we bought land with Lane Tanner and Sarah and Jessica Rutland, all from Arts and Crafts. So we all kind of headed this way together. I think there's 7 of us, all bought land together. Back in the day when you could still buy land as a 22-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Totally unrealistic nowadays. But yeah, we were just wanted to, farm and live off the grid and just kind of damn the man kind of a thing. But it costs a lot of money to be off the grid hippie, so it's a hard lifestyle for sure.
Yeah, I think harder than people realize.
Right. So everybody's kind of had their go at it. Chris and Lane lived out there for quite a long time, kind of off the grid, cisterning generators and stuff like that. I think me and Miranda made it 5 months, and then I was like, dude, this sucks. We gotta go.
Well, yeah.
But it's fun and it's beautiful. We just paid the land off, this year. So
That's awesome.
So it's fruitful. We still own it. We still, it's still a group of us that have it, which is cool. But yeah, that's really what got everything out to Lockhart in the first place.
And that started Loop and Lil's and Arts and Crafts and Fanny's, right?
And Fanny's, yeah.
So all these 3 businesses that didn't exist happened.
Without a bunch of kids who wanted to own something in their life,
Yeah.
Right? I guess, we wanted to be closer to the land, and then the land was in between here and Luling, between Lockhart and Luling. So wanted to live out to be closer to it. Was like, I can't drive into Austin just to cook every day.
Yeah.
And then we opened Loop and Lil's. And that was 8 years ago, I guess.
That's a smart idea. It's just a fascinating story because it's a part of a lot of everyone's lives that live here now. And it's great to hear the genesis of it. And now, you paid off the land, opened the businesses, and now you've come back to the studio, to music, which is
now
awesome.
There's free time again?
Yeah, I love that.
Well, my kids are older, and it's kind of the opposite. Like, we're, time's just a wheel, man. It's back to full circle. There was not enough time to play music, and my kids were super young, and then we opened the business. Now the business is going good, and my son's almost 17.
It's wild with y'all having that dream and coming to Lockhart and making that stuff happen. And now we're at this point, I've come here and started a business, and then your son was working at my music store it's just these dreams kind of building on each other and moving around. It's pretty cool and inspiring.
It is. And you Chaz, you had a similar situation where you were in Oregon, I think, and you were like, I'm going to come down here and do this shop, right?
Yeah. I was in, I had intended to do a shop. I was in Austin.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And
I thought you were... But you were in Portland at some point, right?
Yeah, I had, my mom had passed away and my dad needed some help kind of dealing with that stuff. So I took leave of Texas for a while.
Okay.
But I was in Oregon for a little bit, then needed to get my dad was in Washington State. So
Okay.
then I moved up there for a little bit. And I knew I couldn't come back to Austin. There'd be all the expense and red tape to try to start a brick and mortar business.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
That's a tough thing, especially when you're coming from dealing with family stuff. You're not really necessarily squirreling money away for it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's just I didn't know Richard all them until I'd been here for a little bit. It's like Natalie Ribbons from Telenovela. I knew her from Agent Ribbons. A friend of mine played violin with that band, and I recorded and kind of co-produced a track on one of the Agent Ribbons albums. And she had moved out here and started her vintage shop.
Mm-hmm.
And she had kind of said like, oh, that, you should think about Lockhart. There's, we're here. There's some other musicians here, and so it just made sense. I just really was ready to start a music store, in the way that I would like to do a music store.
Yeah.
Different from all the ones I had worked at.
Yeah. And you had a background in doing a lot of service work as well as being a musician. You were repairing gear and know how it works and that kind of thing.
Yeah. When I was 14, I got a job working for a guitar builder just under the table. So the only things I've done that haven't been working for guitar builders or repair, instrument repair, or working in a music store. I moonlighted at Austin Mopeds for a little while. And drank beers and smoked cigarettes over open containers of gasoline with those guys for a few weeks. That was cool. But otherwise, it's always been music.
You're working with some other people too, working some with Shane, I think?
Yeah, when Shane was working on his record that's just about to come out, Red Swan in Palmetto, we would get together at my studio and, either as a full band, record the practices and hone that was we used it as a pre-production thing with Shane, really.
Yeah.
I think we did a couple overdubs there, actually. There's a couple guitar things and some Wurlitzer we laid down there.
Yeah.
But yeah, just as it's I've always kept a home studio because I play most of the instruments on my albums just for economy's sake. But it kind of just the whole feel of being in Lockhart and doing a music store and wanting to be as community, just seeing that there was a community to connect with and help kind of cultivate. I thought, well, I've never really opened up the studio to other artists before, but this kind of makes sense. So just been working with Richard, it's given the opportunity to kind of put it back together after moving across the country a couple of times, and then working the kinks out and kind of figure out, okay, here's how we can get some sounds out of this studio.
So working with Chaz, since it's the first record, you hadn't really worked with somebody in the production role. It seems like you have a good thing going when you guys are working together.
He doesn't know how good it could have been.
Right, he could just be telling me anything, man.
But
no, I think we just vibe. Well, we're really close friends anyway, and we share the same musical tastes, and I don't know. It never felt like there was a difference in opinions almost ever. Right? It's really just, hey, I've got this song. The song would be cool on the album. And then he would learn it and make it good. And then, we'd be like, okay, what are we going to put on this next? Maybe a bunch of slide, maybe a Wurlitzer, maybe, whatever. But it was just really a fun process to be a part of. And Jazz is just such a good musician, man, that it's kind of gross to watch. I'm like, hey, dude, how about some some ripping guitar solos through here? And he's like, cool, give me
He's like our town prince.
Dude, very much so. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
The
only thing that didn't work was
you need to get it, man.
Yeah.
we tried to do a horn section ourselves, and that didn't work. I was like, I used to play tenor sax in jazz band. That was 25 years ago. You definitely lose that stuff if you don't use it.
I was like, I used to play clarinet. I can do it too.
So we spent 30 minutes just
honking.
honking that place up. It was pretty bad. So, no horns on this album.
No.
Never cared for changing. Seemed like some things never stay the same. How the rivers cut the valleys low, windows surely blow that storm away. For every fear that I hold on to, there's a dream that I let slowly slip away. Too much like my father, though, I told myself I'd never be this way. I've seen lots of places, lots of smiling faces in my time. A few I can't remember, a few that I just can't get off my mind. I'm not going back to Houston County now, try to catch them pine trees in the fall. I'm not going back to Houston County now, try to catch them pine trees in the fall. In a world that's full of changing, there's a whole lot of things that'll never change at all. Once I was a young man, trying to rid myself of all I've left behind. And I sold my soul to reason, try to buy myself a different peace of mind. But the money's gone and the time's been spent, nothing left to pay the debts I owe. Guess I ought to go. I might go back to Houston County now, try to catch them pine trees in the fall. Might go back to Houston County now, try to catch them pine trees in the fall. In a world that's full of changing, there's a whole lot of things that'll never change at all. In a world that's full of changing, there's a whole lot of things that'll never change at all. There's a whole lot of things that'll never change at all.
Do you mind to talk a little bit more in detail about your new album? And we could set up a track and play that as
Oh
well.
boy, yeah, sure. Yeah, so it was interesting. I had kind of thought in my head that I would, like after my last album, I recorded that over the period of like moving across the country. Like I started some of that in Austin, and then did some of it in Portland, Oregon, and did some of it in my parents' old bedroom in Gig Harbor, Washington, and
Yeah.
some of it in Lockhart. Finally, that thing got done against a lot of odds. So on this thing, I thought, rather than do it like a grind like that, I'm just going to keep writing in spare time and record in my spare time in between things. And that was a weird thing. I thought I was putting out an EP, and I was like, wait, I forgot about this song. Started tracking that. Oh, yeah, this one too. Yeah. So tracked that one, and I was like, well, shoot, this is a full-length record. And it's really eclectic. And it seems like every album I put out, it gets a little bit more eclectic. But, and I don't know. I don't know if it's the right choice, but I think of things like the White Album.
Yeah.
And there's like weird old jazz songs, and then there's like, Helter Skelter on the same album,
Yeah.
Orchestral things.
Yeah.
It's like none of it makes any sense, but the unifying things, it's those people doing it. And, I mean, there's 4 of them, and there's only one of me, so I figure that's a lot of continuity.
You will find love when your heart has found return. You will find love. all find love. We all find love. I will find love. Each step closer I get to me. I will find love in reflections you let me see. We all find love. We all find
You'll be able to catch Richard Platt at the Barbecue Fest 78644 Showcase on November 4th, 2 o'clock to 3:30 on the main stage. And you'll be able to catch Chaz Bissett playing with R.F. Shannon that weekend as well. Austin Music Love is putting out a local music discovery letter. They will send out the new songs that are released daily by local artists in the Central Texas area, including Lockhart. Plus, you can personalize your newsletter by genre. Over 1,500 local artists are signed up to have their music distributed through the newsletter, and there are about 50 new releases per week across all genres. Some of the Lockhart artists included are Augustin Ramirez, Melissa Engelman, Telenovela, R.F. Shannon, Richard Watson, and Parker Chapin. Find out more at austinmusiclove.com.
Hey folks, Emily here from Wella, a local family-owned business right here in Lockhart, Texas. We make everyday foods you love, like Thunderbird, Superfood, energy bars, and our Wella hot cereal, and more, with only clean ingredients and amazing flavors. You can find us at H-E-B, Central Market, Whole Foods, Good Things on the Lockhart Square, as well as ThunderbirdBar.com, WellaFoods.com, and Amazon.
Allie Jackson is a talented multimedia artist and creative art director. She fuses a diverse range of media and processes in her work. For example, she utilizes painting, textile, sculpture, augmented reality, and experimental film in both digital and physical spaces. Her unique art-forward perspective garnered the attention of big companies like Nike, Snapchat, Sony Pictures, and Paramount. They've all hired her to tell their stories. Most recently, she's had great success with Austin F.C. Jackson's work that won the Major League Soccer's Marketing Team of the Year 2022 award. Her design led the team to record-breaking merchandise and ticket sales in league history. Her work will be featured at Siloed, a Tanktown art experience, 5 grain silos, 5 art installations, 5 weekends only. Other artists featured include Essentials Creative Harvey English, Paloma Mayorga, Chad Ray, and Amy Schofield. You can check out Siloed Fridays, October 13th, 20th, 27th, and November 3rd, 4 to 11 p.m., Sundays, October 8th, 15th, and 22nd, and 29th at 2 to 9 p.m. The closing reception is November 5th, 2 to 7 p.m. Suggested artist donations are $10 per person. You can do this at https:// //GoFundMe/75891E8F. I got a chance to visit with Allie by Zoom. She talked about her work and also Siloed.
My name is Allie Jackson, and I am a multimedia artist, creative director, kind of creative Swiss Army knife. I have a background in obviously making fine art and installations and all that good stuff, but also have worked more on the commercial art side, from digital to video to print, festivals, and kind of everything in between. So yeah, that's my creative life in a nutshell.
I was looking at your website too, and it was interesting some of the things you've done developing the multimedia interactive type of thing with social media. I remember in the 90s, interactivity was kind of the focus for multimedia. And then it seemed like it got back to just watching.
Right.
Do you find that to be true? Or
Yeah, I feel like, we've kind of gotten to this world of like passive viewing, right? And just being on our phones and getting quick tidbits and going on to the next thing and not really being a part of it, being a part of the art, being a part of an advertising experience, anything like that. So I think something I've always loved about creating is, not only making stuff for a living, right? But also like finding that interaction with people and finding interesting ways, to, actively engage with people and not just have somebody like look at my stuff and then kind of, okay, that's it, move on to the next thing. So I think there's something really interesting about that. I think, some of my work is more like that, right? It's hard for everything to have that engagement and, to be fully engaged all the time. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think there's something really fun about making a connection with somebody that's more than just like them looking at it. Okay, cool. And on to the next thing. And something that they can even experience when they're not at a traditional art gallery or something like that, especially with augmented reality, like they could view it an experience at home. And it kind of changes like the context of the art itself and the experience itself, and is different, more personalized. So yeah, something I'm super interested in, whether consciously or subconsciously. I think it kind of started as like more of a subconscious thing, but now is like really become a part of my practice and something that I think about proactively when I make stuff.
I think it's fascinating, the augmented reality. I love the concept, but I've always found it's just this one step of clunkiness. It's like 3D movies. You need this one piece of gear to make the whole thing come to life. And I'm trying, I keep waiting for some sort of technology to happen where augmented reality is more easily interfaced. I don't know what that looks like yet. As an artist, are you doing a lot of work with that?
There was a point where I was doing a lot of it, and I was working pretty closely with the people at Snapchat, because they had just kind of like rolled out this creators platform and had all these awesome people from around the world kind of join. And not to say that it's fizzled out, because I think it's very much still a very vibrant community and something that's still really relevant on Snapchat. But it's one of those things, like I'm one of those people that like gets bored with one medium, which you can probably see looking at my body of work. Not necessarily that I got bored with it, but I was just like doing it a lot. So I started working in different types of mediums. It's definitely something. I have a show right now in Grand Rapids for Art Prize, and I brought it back into that show. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that I kind of weave in and out of my work, but more just in terms of like, I was getting a little bored and wanted to like try some new things, but now it's in my toolkit of like cool stuff that I can do and things that I can mix. I was like super heavy into it, and I was doing stuff for brands and did some work for like Nike and Sony Pictures and like a bunch of different like big brands, and then just kind of like was like, okay, on to the next thing. So yeah.
That's fascinating. Well, let's talk a little bit about the installation at Tanktown. You're working with the art house, right?
Yeah, Chad at Art House reached out. Trying to remember the first time I met Chad. I think we were doing something for East Austin Studio Tour, and we were like stationed at the same place. And yeah, we both had like a similar background and kind of like just clicked with our art. We both had worked in advertising before. I knew some mutual people, and yeah, he hit me up for this, and I was super excited.
Yeah, it's a cool space, and Tanktown is where, and it's called Siloed, and it seems here that you've got 5 different installations for one per silo, 5 silo. So tell me a little bit about it.
So my process is kind of weird, right? It's like very all over the place. I usually throw a bunch of ideas at the wall and just kind of see what sticks. So, this one I was really inspired by the idea of being in this like giant metal tall tube that is kind of dark, and the sound in there when you like yell or talk or whatever, it has this like really intense like echo. So that was kind of like my jumping off point. And then an idea I'd been kind of floating around with for a while. And actually, my partner, Oren, who's also an artist, well, he had the idea of like going and photographing all these like wacky, wavy, inflatable tube people. And it's just something we've always like noticed. He also works in advertising and design too. So I think with both of our advertising backgrounds, it was always just like this funny thing that like it really does get your attention. It's like those billboards, like, does advertising work? Just did. And they're kind of silly and ridiculous. So the thought of like this giant tank, this giant tube, it's like this experience that it's kind of dark and moody and has interesting soundscape. Like, what if I put one of those two people in the silo, put some music on a loop, and kind of like created this like solo dance party with a wacky, wavy, inflatable tube person. And so that was, kind of like my random jumping off point. And what I've kind of been working on is customizing the tube person. So I'm kind of painting into it, screen printing different things, and kind of like making it my own little creature. I'm still kind of playing around with like what music is going to be playing with it, but it'll be some sort of like dance track kind of on a loop. And then, once I'm in there, I think I'll be inspired to like make some sort of interesting lighting setup. So yeah, that's kind of like my jumping off point and like what my plan is for the space.
That's great. And so each silo is a different installation, and are they different in theme? I'm sure they are.
What's really cool about it is that each tank or silo has like a different group of people who all have very different styles. So what's really interesting is that we're all kind of starting with this, like, they're all very similar. Like each one is a little bit different inside, but we're all kind of starting with a very similar blank slate and bringing our own kind of version into it. So I think what's going to be really cool as a viewer is just being able to go in and experience all of these very different things in each one of these silos. And you don't always get to see that, like with installations and things like that, how people really bring their creativity to like a similar space, and how, different it can be, and how people's brains kind of like take that and like turn it into something. So yeah, I'm really excited, like, of course, my own work to be in there, but just to experience all these other artists whose work is incredible and see how they kind of interpret the space.
It's exciting, yeah, because I've been wanting to see the silos used in that way for a while, just because they're interesting reverb chambers. They're interesting, the shape of them. You do all kinds of great stuff. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the show.
As a creative person, going in there and just like the audio part of it is like, whoa, you're like stepping into this kind of like different world almost. And you can kind of feel it because it's metal. Mm-hmm. You can like feel the air around you, which is like really cool. Like it just has this like really interesting thing. I was joking with Chad, like maybe my installation will be, I'll just live in there. But then I was like, oh no, Texas metal heat, maybe not a good idea.
No. You gotta have an insulator. I think Ian, the guy who owns it, Ian Stowe, and his wife, Ian's an architect, and so he's been talking about building something in there that would be like a space to live in. It was climate controlled. So cool. But we'll see what happens. Right now, this is going to be cool to see some installations in there.
Yeah. It's such a cool little area too, like how they've built out across the street with the little pool and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I live in Bastrop. So it's really cool to see like different small towns take these like really interesting places and like make them into like cool new inspiring places, of like something that's used to house grain.
Yeah.
And
No,
stuff we still do in the back. So
it is. It's really cool to see and make it
Yeah.
a public space instead of just a sort of forgotten space.
Yep.
Seeing the installation is going to bring that to the other side of the street. So we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited.
So the phone rings, the day with the White House, and I'm like, oh crap, Big Jim wants money. And I'm like, okay, Jim, what's up? And he goes, excuse me? It was a lady. I said, I'm sorry, ma'am, I thought you were a friend that was calling from the White House. And he says, excuse me, but are you David Torres? David A. Torres? I said, yes, ma'am. All right, we're calling to verify the value of the president's hat to put in the archives, and we need to verify. And I said, yes, ma'am. And I told her the price and everything. And she goes, okay. And then she goes, excuse me, but you said Jim, and I need to make sure there's nothing left unturned on this conversation. You thought I was Big Jim. What does that mean? And she goes, is there something I need to know of? Because this is a president. And I'm like, well, let me tell you, street lingo, friends of ours call the White House, it really means the penitentiary. And she goes, so you're saying street lingo out there is called the White House really means sometimes the penitentiary? And I said, yeah, because the building's painted white. And she goes, hey. Well, okay, well, I just needed to verify and clear the air because the whole group family of Texas Hatters has security clearance and y'all have all been checked out.
Come on down to Texas Hatters, where we top the best.
Kevin Daniel Humphreys, a local musician and teacher and an artist who's been on the show before, came to the studio to talk to us about bringing The Last Waltz back to the stage here in Lockhart this November. And we talked a little bit about his vision with his new production company called Syntax Productions and what he has planned, and so he came in to visit with us about it. Thanks for coming and talking to us about The Last Waltz, which is how we met, actually, is playing on that gig a couple years ago. Was it before COVID?
No, actually, it was kind of right after the dust was settling because I made my kind of move to say, I guess, into Lockhart around October 21, teaching at Sunflower and Friends. I live a bit outside of town in no man's land, but I discovered Lockhart in 2021, kind of as the world was coming back to, and discovered Sunflower and Friends and started teaching music there in October 21, and I'm still doing that today.
Let's talk about your vision for redoing The Last Waltz and bringing it to a new venue and kind of your vision for it.
So we had a really great Last Waltz in 2021 when you and I met, Stephen, like you were saying, and that was done at the Gaslight Baker Theater by Rachel Rhodes Presents, and they had this vision of doing it there with the wonderful backdrop that echoed the original Last Waltz, and the set was slim enough that we're able to, but as the Gaslight Baker continues to do amazing productions each season, their sets are growing and we couldn't fit there. So I kind of had the idea of moving venues, went to Rach and Will, and we kind of worked it out that I could go and look for a venue and found Luna Gardens, reached out to them and kind of started the planning with Don and Tony, who are the amazing owners of that space. They've done some free events there and have been kind of growing the space, a stage, a green room, actual real bathrooms, a kind of graded flat area that could be set up for dining at like tented events, and sound all the way around the property and the pond. It's really amazing. And so I started up Syntax Productions and partnered with Don at Luna Gardens, and we started planning.
Like the first one, it's pulling in a lot of Lockhart musicians, right? And then it's also there to help promote Lockhart businesses.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess since it is a musical event, we'll talk a little bit about some of our guests, right? We have a lot of returning guests like Halliana, Jen Miori Hodges, Dustin Welch, Tom Piles coming back. We're adding Jackie Obercrom, who's a local. Steve Collins here will be back with us again. Sarah Barlow. And then we've added a few people kind of from the surrounding Central Texas area like Grant Ewing. And we've also added Mandy Roden of Girl Guitar, Michael Milligan, a great blues player out of Austin. And there's a few names I might have forgotten. Let's see if I can get them all. Leary Kelly will be here from Lockhart, and Travis Knight will be back. Samantha out of New Braunfels will be here. Johnny Walker. And we have an amazing house band this year that is basically David Beck's band. He's playing bass. And his drummer, Dee Stribling, and one of his keyboard players, Peter Huisman, along with guest keyboardist Dan Holmes, and myself, Kevin Daniel, will be on guitar.
When we did the show in 21, we just did the music, and it was a great night, but you're adding a whole meal to it, kind of like the I don't know if some people know that when the band did The Last Waltz, the concert, they were making the movie, but it was their last concert, and they served the whole Fillmore Thanksgiving dinner, and so you're kind of doing that, I think, right?
Yes, they served 5,000 people. That is a bit more than we're ready to do, but we are going to do a 200-person dinner before, which will be attended by the artists, and the artists will each get a guest as well. And we're bringing in Roaming Fire through Millscale Metalworks. Roaming Fire is going to cook over an open fire for everyone, and Susamigas Production Agency is going to be showing local music videos from the artists and whatnot, as well as some other visual arts and things. It's going to be really a nice celebration of just kind of Lockhart art and businesses. Best Little Wine and Books is going to be helping out with drinks, and we've also got Millscale Metalworks and Deep Eddy Vodka sponsoring, and a lot of local partners that have helped us out. You know, Luna Gardens is really giving us a generous first go at the venue to let us be the first ones to do a ticketed event there. Plum Creek Records has helped with graphics and design. Meshed Up Productions is going to be providing a really great sound experience. And we're looking to partner with any more local Lockhart businesses. We really just want to get more names out there and drive as much of the kind of audience that we have for local business, local restaurants and bars and shops and local music kind of to one place and really kind of up the game so that everyone kind of feels seen and included that wants to be.
A tribute to The Last Waltz is coming back to Lockhart, Texas on Sunday, November 26th. The show will be held at Luna Gardens and will start with a chef-prepared VIP dinner by Roaming Fire. Come and enjoy an amazing meal prepared over an open fire with the artists, and a showing of local music videos by Susamigas Production Agency, as well as a front row seat to the concert. Dinner seats are limited, and sales close November 10th. There are also general admission tickets available now at a discount. This amazing event is brought to you by Deep Eddy Vodka, Millscale Metalworks, and Meshed Up Productions. Visit Last Waltz, show for tickets and more info.
Hi, I don't know if you're aware that we're throwing a celebration of specialness. It's also a celebration of tastiness. In 1986, David Byrne made a movie about a bunch of people living in Virgil, Texas. The band Talking Heads even made a whole album about it. In the movie, they have a celebration of specialness. I thought it would be cool to have our own celebration of specialness, except this one's kind of real.
It's a celebration of what makes Lockhart special in the first place. Smoky meats.
They're going to have a variety show about meat? How do you do that?
But in recent years, we've got something else that makes us special. Like musicians, like Mitch. Hey, now. Hey, Dustin. Hey, Steve. So we were fortunate enough to partner with Texas Monthly to kick off Barbecue Fest. So what started as a celebration of specialness became a celebration of tastiness.
Happiness is an attribute or a quality. Messiness is an attribute, but it's a description of a state.
Lockhart has all kinds of characters that live in it. A lot of them we feature on the podcast that we run. Some of them are real, and some of them aren't.
I do traffic. That you're up there in a helicopter looking down, knowing where everybody's going. I ain't gonna lie either, I made a little money on the side doing a little PI work.
I mean, we all know I've got a little bit of ADHD. It's just a little touch.
Come in here, you gotta see some things in here. Oh, Mr. Chickadee.
This vase, it has a terrific story. Let me just show
you. Know, I really resent the hell out of the fact that people use the word chicken to mean afraid. Let me tell you what, you crawl into a chicken coop with a horny rooster and see who runs for the door.
In addition to the characters you've just seen, we're also going to feature several songwriters and musicians from the podcast. And it's all happening live, November 3rd, as a part of what we like to call
the Smoky Home Compadre.
And it's that time for the eye in the sky.
Hey, Steven, what's going on? That's right, Billy Elvis here. Your eye in the sky. I gotta be honest. Little Phil over here driving this thing, it says, kind of seems more like a rye in the sky, if you know what I mean. Hey, looking out over here, anything with, you gotta go past Snap Fitness today. Absolutely wouldn't do it. Wouldn't even bring in maybe the Dairy Queen. Looks like there's gonna be a lot of action over since they've moved that new Grandy's down there over by the old mall. Also, flying over by the old mall right now, like I said earlier, looks like Hot Topic is probably having a big sale, and I think Mervin's is doing a clearance, so for Monday it's pretty packed back there as well. So if you have any children who might have school activities later at the high school that's over by the old mall, I would definitely maybe see if they might reschedule anything like that, because it's just, I would say there's probably at least a 2-minute wait. Traffic's just hectic as it can get right here, right now. Also, let's take our sponsor, Poco Loco, and love being your eye in the sky up here when Phil's not on the rye. You know what I mean? All right, back to you, Steven.
Thanks so much, Billy. We sure do appreciate it. I'm sorry that Bobby couldn't make it, but I think he's going to make it next time. Anyway, it is time for 78644 News. Saturday, October 14th, Lockhart Arts and Crafts, stand-up comedy by Prickly Pear Pro Arelli, Isaac Norman, Patrick Christopher, and Jack Neal. That's 8 to 10 p.m. Duets will have their opening party with The Homily, Nick Garza's Get Along, Electric Gold, Evan Charles, and White Dog at 11:30 p.m. Old Pal will have the Dustin Welsh residency, 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. The Gaslight Baker Theater will be having Frankenstein at 8 p.m. Martindale River Cafe, Fairbanks and the Lonesome Light, 8 to 10 p.m. Load Off Fannies will have Jenny and the Jets at 7:30 p.m. Sunday, October 15th, the Lockhart Art House, Siloed, a Tanktown art experience, will be from 2 to 9 p.m. The Pearl will have Sunday Blues Matinee with W.C. Clark. That's 3 to 5 p.m. Lockhart Arts and Crafts will have Paint Along, Friendly Ghost at 5 p.m. The Gaslight Baker Theater will be having Frankenstein showing there. And that's the play, not the movie. That's at 2 p.m. Load Off Fannies will have Ethan Ford and guests. That's 1 to 3 p.m. Tuesday, October 17th, Lockhart Arts and Craft will have Lady Lamb. That's 8 to 10 p.m. Wednesday, October 18th, Best Little Wine will have Mr. Carter's Smooth Blues Corner, 6:30 to 9 p.m. The Pearl will have Stony Gable, 7 to 9 p.m. Thursday, October 19th, El Rey will have karaoke starting at 8 p.m. The Pearl will have open mic hosted by the Michael James Trio. Sign up begins at 6:30 p.m. Open mic from 7 to 9 p.m. Old Pal will have Brock Macarelli from 7 to 9 p.m. Load Off Fannies will have costume karaoke from 6 to 10 p.m. Friday, October 20th, the Gaslight Baker Theater will be presenting Frankenstein, the play. It's 8 p.m. Martindale River Cafe will have Dylan Bishop from 8 to 10 p.m. Lockhart Arts and Craft will have Mags Baker and the Texas Queer Band from 8 to 10 p.m. Lockhart Art House will have Siloed, a Tanktown art experience from 4 to 11 p.m. The Pearl will have Gone to Texas, Peggy Stern and the Russell Brothers from 8 to 10 p.m. Old Pal will have Emily Herring and the FM Band. That's 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. Saturday, October 21st, Gaslight Baker Theater will be showing Frankenstein, the play. That's at 8 p.m. Martindale River Cafe will have Sam Lewis to 8 to 10 p.m. Old Pal will have Rebecca Patek, 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. Duets will have David Ramirez with Garrett Owens at 6:30 p.m. Sunday, October 22nd, Gaslight Baker Theater will have a matinee of the Frankenstein play from 2 p.m. Lockhart Art House will have Siloed, a Tanktown art experience, 2 to 9 p.m. The Pearl will have Sunday Blues Matinee with W.C. Clark from 3 to 5 p.m. Wednesday, October 25th, the Best Little Wine will have Mr. Carter's Smooth Blues Corner. The Pearl will have Chris Lancaster from 7 to 9 p.m. Duets will have Kevin Russell Shiny Ribs with David Beck. That's at 6:30 p.m. Thursday, October 26th, Lockhart Arts and Craft will have Clean Girl and the Dirty Dishes from 8 to 10 p.m. El Rey will have karaoke starting at 8 p.m. Old Pal will have Paul Finley from 7 to 9 p.m. Friday, October 27th, Lockhart Arts and Crafts will have open mic from 8 to 10 p.m. Lockhart Art House will have Siloed, a Tanktown art experience from 4 to 11 p.m. Gaslight Baker Theater will be having Frankenstein the play at 8 p.m. The Pearl will have Mark Anthony Cruz with guests 8 to 10 p.m. Old Pal will have Jamie Kruger, 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. Duets will have Vampire Ball featuring Vegan Leather and Brian Quiet at 6:30 p.m. Load Off Fannies will have Two Bens and a Bear, 7 to 9 p.m. Martindale River Cafe will have its Fall Festival, 8 to 10 p.m. Saturday, October 28th, Lockhart Arts and Craft will have Mark William Borg and the Shufflehawks, 8 to 10 p.m. Duets will have Robert Ellis from 6:30 p.m. Gaslight Baker Theater will be showing its Frankenstein play, 2 p.m. matinee and an 8 p.m. showing. Old Pal will have Tiger Alley, 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. Sunday, October 29th, Lockhart Art House will have Siloed, a Tanktown art experience. That's 2 to 9 p.m. The Pearl will have Sunday Blues Matinee with W.C. Clark, 3 to 5 p.m. Old Pal will have Graham Wilkinson Presents Brunch. That's 12 to 2 p.m. And Tuesday, October 31st, it's Happy Halloween. Old Pal will have Johnny Walker Field Trip Halloween Karaoke and a costume contest. That's from 7 to 10 p.m. And that's it for 78644 News.
I'm out of range, and I used to care, but things have changed.
Classically trained since he was 4 years old, Massimo Gerosa has been playing blues, boogie woogie, soul, jazz, rhythm and blues, jump blues, rock and roll, rockabilly, country and western swing, live on stages and in the studio for over 25 years. While he was in Europe, he was playing and recording with several European bands and backing international artists in various music festivals, mostly blues, 50s rock and roll, rhythm and blues, and rockabilly artists like Chuck Berry, Wanda Jackson, and many others. He's now living in Lockhart, and he came by the studio to visit with us.
I've been classical trained since when I was a kid, when I was four and a half. But the first music that I started playing live was boogie woogie and blues.
Okay.
So the blues stuff has been kind of my intro to live music. And I played a lot of rockabilly through the years and a lot of blues. When I moved here, I had the opportunity to, play a little bit more of soul and rhythm and blues and play with different bands.
What instrument are you playing?
I play piano.
Okay.
With all of them, piano and some organ, of course, and the recording especially. Yeah, and so I play with I remember that there was a Jay Milano. She was a single artist, and we played a lot of rhythm and blues with her. We played ACL a few times and did some bigger, some official showcase. But the band that I was playing the longest with is here in Austin it's called the Soul Supporters. 6-piece. There are 2 lead vocalists, and we've been doing originals, and we've been doing covers, and we have been playing very heavily started about maybe 7 or 8 years ago. At one point we were having about maybe 4 residencies a week plus other shows, so we were playing 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
We never toured. That's one of the lucky things about Austin. People come to Austin to see live music, so there's not a strict necessity to tour around. But yeah, so that's kind of my exposure that I had to the soul side, and then through them I got other gigs. Sometimes I'm a hard gun. Whoever needs a keyboard, they call me.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I did. Mm-hmm.
We were talking about how many musicians have moved out to Lockhart before we started recording, and how it's become a place for musicians to live, but not necessarily play all the time.
Correct. Yeah, there's plenty of musicians that had never been seen playing here in Lockhart, and they've been playing all over the world. Some of them, and the first one that came to mind, his name is Dave Biller. It's an incredible guitar player. If you look it up on Discogs, his page of recordings is probably 3 pages long. He played with everybody. I think that, if I don't remember incorrectly, Eric Clapton called him to play at his birthday in Madison Square Garden. So really like a top-notch guitar player, and he lives here in town since probably a couple of years now. Damian Lanes, plays drums. He played actually with John Ortiz, another musician that moved here a couple of years ago. They have this band called Jet Techas. They played here, I think. Damien is another one, that played with so many artists, in his career and life. And Emily Gimbel, I don't know if you ever heard of her.
Yeah, no, Emily and her
incredible piano player. I never seen her playing here.
Yeah.
I always saw her in Austin, and she's one of my favorites. So there's a good lineup of people that, live here but need to go to Austin to play. Luckily now in Austin there are a few clubs that on a weekend they make a good pay, and for some of these musicians make the rent or the mortgage payment. The 4 times they play there during the weekend make the whole month. Probably are 4 or 5 places they pay there well, so there's a lot of competition to play there. And you cannot miss those places pretty much. So people most of the time goes to these places, don't even know who's playing, for even tourists. If they come to Austin, they want to go to see some good music, they all go to the Continental Club, to the White Horse, to Broken Spoke from good country. They go to Sea Boys.
What are your thoughts on going about educating people that live here in Lockhart to think music-minded?
Yeah.
Lockhart was just sitting here and didn't have any music 5 years ago, or very little, and I've been here for 15.
In the 4 years that I've been here in Lockhart, I've seen already the change. Luckily we have venues that can do live music. I've been to other small towns that are living the same problem. I know they're on the outskirts of Austin, and they have a bigger issue than us. They don't have venues. Like in Georgetown, they have probably more money than Lockhart, but they don't have absolutely venues to play music. So they have to start from a little bit behind us. So we have at least a few places here that can play music. I start playing at the White Horse when they open, for example, and there was no cover at the beginning. They always took care of the musicians, and they always hired quality bands. So people start going back there. And I remember one day they start, they pay us, and at the end of the night was a lot of money. I said, "Oh, what happened?" "Oh, we start charging $5 at the door." And everybody was just paying in and out, no problem. And now, after the pandemic, they had issue with paying the bands. They kept open, and they kept, playing instead of 3 bands a day, 2 bands a day, and they raised the price. They put it $10, and everybody's walking in at $10, no issues. Clearly, they have a location which is different. They have a lot of tourists that are coming to Austin for the live music. It's happening here too. I mean, the people who come to Austin come down here because Lockhart got on the map.
Are you thinking it's getting on the map for music and barbecue now?
For both, yeah. I mean, the people, maybe they're driven here from barbecue, right? That's kind of the claim of fame here for sure, and for a good reason. But they're seeing that it's alive, and there's a lot of more people that I meet, and they're positively surprised by how much alive is this place. And there's a lot of people from Austin that are, kind of escaping from the city and then coming down here, and they're surprised about, how much is going on.
Yeah, it's crazy how much is going on.
Some people that came to some of my shows in Austin, so they see maybe 2 or 3 bands of a certain quality, and they say, "Well, I wish we could see that more often in Lockhart as well, right?" The big shows that they do on the square, that they work. They have good quality bands. And now I think that they started as a project, and now they have bands calling them, right?
Yeah, and because they, that's what we're trying to do even with the show, is make it a worthwhile thing where musicians can make a little money doing it. All of our subscription money goes to a pot that is a lottery for the artists that have been on the show.
Yeah,
and that could help, if the more the subscribers go up. But it's just getting people to think music minded. I don't know. I've lived out here for 15 years, and it took a while for me to understand that it was actually, I could go and do that myself. I was so used to driving to Austin.
Right.
Now I can do a show here. I can go see a show and participate in that. And if you want it to be good, it has to cost a little more than a bag of chips.
Yeah. There should be a common interest in, all moving in the same direction. Because again, if you have 4 places in a small town that do live music, and 3 of them are free and one charges the cover, the one that charges the cover is not gonna happen, right? It's gonna have a few people going there. So, in my opinion, they should all charge a cover, and you can start small.
Yeah.
This still helps, if you make people pay $5 at the door, they still have money to tip, When C-Boys first opened, right? So I was playing shows down few blocks at the Continental Club, and they were charging $15, $20 at the door. Nobody was doing anything. They're just walking in. And I was playing with same bands up the street from the club that just opened, and they were charging $7 to $10, and I saw people turning around because they didn't know the club. The club wasn't famous or whatever. So there is something to that too.
Yeah.
So if somebody, again, that's why I say stick to your gun, because if that's the price that you pay for live music, that's what you do. And again, it's a cost and an investment on it, because yes, there's gonna be people turning around, especially at the very beginning.
If everyone's thinking this way, then everyone gets used to a healthier music component, and then the venues are packed. So I do think it's smart.
Yeah, and it can be creative, right? If the charge at the door doesn't work, you work out a percentage of the bar or whatever it is. Like, it happens in other places in Austin as well.
Yeah.
There is a way to to do it. And,
but the cover, I think, is a good training exercise.
It is. I mean, that's the one.
And it's easy because you don't know what the percentage of the bar is.
Right.
Nobody knows.
It's always,
that.
it's not a perfect formula, But, the charge at the door is what it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's always now. Like, for example, I play with a couple of bands. We are very different than the rest of the world. Like, I think that some of the clubs closed for like 2 or 3 months, and then they reopened. They were doing something very limited, 50% capacity, whatever the law allowed them to do. But there were also a selection of bands that, they decided for any reason, which is fine. Everybody can do, whatever wanted to do, but they decided not to play for safety or whatever the reason it was. The bands that helped these places stay open, literally keep the doors open forever, otherwise they would have closed forever. They got some sort of negotiating power now. Like, there's some of the clubs that are being very recognized of that everybody was risking something, right?
Yeah.
But that's the first time that I've seen music and business owners being on the same side.
Yeah,
because we were all fighting for the same. If a club closes, is a club less that you can play.
Right.
For the future. So we were all kind of, fighting in the same direction.
And when we're talking about this idea in a local fashion, for all the venues that we love here that have been here for, 3 or 4 years now, and then the ones that are coming, it is a united front. If we can look at it that way, between the musicians and the venue, we can fight one fight to get to work together to fill those venues up for both musicians and the businesses.
Exactly, yeah. And and there's enough people now moving that they moved here that you can fill those clubs. And I like the fact that there's a big variety of music here.
Yeah,
it's not just country music. So there's music for every year, which is very important.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I mean that. Again, I'm actually positive about the future of Lockhart, because I think that there's gonna be many good things happening. It's gonna take a lot of effort, and people like you that is helping, kind of, educating the rest of the folks here. At some time, I had a conversation with friends. I never thought about it this way, right? Well, see, I mean, that's the way it works.
It's a good dialogue, right? No, I like the way that you're thinking about it. I'm hoping we'll see more of this type of conversation among musicians than like, oh, there's nothing that can be done, or I don't think business minded. It is a business, and it is how people make their living, or there's no music.
I told you earlier, we're going to have some ideas of trying to help the community promoting this kind of mentality and help both sides, business owners and musicians, and hopefully we'll be able to accomplish something in the future.
Is brought to you by Texas Hatters, Wella Foods, Thunderbird Bars, Wendy R Books and Gifts, Corazon Austin Realty, and Viva Terlingua, the Big Bang of Texas Music exhibit at the Whitliff Collections at Texas State University. Our in-kind sponsors are Printing Solutions, Willigan's Island, Courthouse Nights, the Rock House Airbnb, Birdie House Airbnb, Gaslight Baker Theater, and Crystal Glaze Photography. Our show is produced by Kate Collins, recorded at Troubadour Image and Sound in Lockhart, Texas, edited by myself, Stephen Collins, and Danny Manning. Social media is managed by Crystal Glaze. Thank you to our contributor, Will Rhodes, for Eye on the Sky. Our show is available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon, Radio Public, and everywhere else where podcasts are streamed. Thanks for listening.